What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Glad to be back here doing another video for you guys. Today I want to talk about 2025 in the kayak industry in 2025 and beyond. I've done a few of these videos before. You guys really liked them, so I wanted to do one what I see the industry going next year. A lot of things have changed in the last few months, namely talking about Motor Guide discontinuing the XI3 and then just ceasing operations altogether. The unknown that is the bow mount motorization option that are going to be out there. What does that do for the Wilderness Systems Tactical Pro 128? What does it do for the new XTR 130 from Bonafide? And even when you're talking about budget-friendly options, the Ascend 133 was basically designed around that motor option because you are definitely not going to want to paddle that kayak. We'll go over that and a few other things here. Let's get right into it. Okay, so going over some new products. So some new things came out. I mentioned in the intro the Wilderness Systems Tactical Pro 128 at, I believe, $2,200. You know, I was a little iffy on that. The more I got to looking at that kayak and the more I got to learning about it, the more I started to like it. Now, I still think that it is too close to the price range of the Bonafide XTR 130 at $2,800. Again, these prices are as of right now. These could obviously change on either one of these, but it's too close to that price range of the XTR. To me, the XTR gives you a better seat, more wide open deck space, better stability. It is heavier, but it's that heaviness is going to be that rigidity. You're going to have reinforced bow and stern motor mount. So that is a big deal. And one thing that Wilderness Systems did do is they really kind of went on the cheaper route with your wiring, your fuse blocks, and things like that. I see that being a problem. It's the same problem that the Ascend had on the the 133X, the tournament edition. Again, it's all come pre-wired. It was very, I don't want to say cheaply done, but it was cheaply done. You could see where they cut some corners. Obviously, they want to keep that cost down, that price point down. But what it did is it did cause some issues in both mold quality. So a lot of the deck flexing turns into deck cracking. I think the Wilderness System Tactical Pro is definitely going to be that next step up, in my opinion, for those people that might have got their feet wet on the 133, but maybe now they've kind of worked themselves into wanting something a little bit more. And right there is that Tactical Pro, and just I like the layout of it. I like the some of the things that some of the storage that's set up on it. They do have a nice seat on it. I do like the Millennium seat, obviously, that the XTR comes with. But again, if you like that Wilderness Systems platform, it's definitely a step up because they have virtually been non-existent with the exception of the Recon in that fishing space. The Attack 120 and 140 have not sold like they hoped it would. And the same thing with the Radar series. And there's one thing with Wilderness Systems, their pedal drive option is just not the best out there. And you kind of get the feeling that, and wisely, is kind of stepping away from that a little bit. I would have liked to have seen them maybe improve on it instead of just not doing anything at all with it and letting it sit there. People are still buying it, but that has really started to die down in the last few years. But I touched on a little bit. Obviously, the XTR 130, that is regardless of whether you're buying it or not, or I'm not going to get into whether it's a kayak or a boat argument, but that is probably one of the most modern, feature-rich kayaks out there. And it's not just for the tournament pro. It's not just for that guy going out competitively fishing. Think about taking a friend out, taking a grandson out, taking a son or daughter out, or just a friend. So not everybody that owns a bass boat is a competitive professional fisherman. Not everybody that buys the XTR needs to be that either. So that's a very important point to make, in my opinion. And then Hobie redesigning, I guess you could call it redesigning a little bit on the Pro Angler. Basically, all they did was they added motor mount options on the front and the back. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. To me, it's a little bit of window dressing instead of really focusing on the main problem. One being public perception, customer service, parts availability, and going big box. I think those are going to be some of the things that maybe not brings Hobie down to its knees, but really gets them to evaluating some things very quickly, in my opinion. Um, I'm not a Hobie hater. I own a Hobie. I like some of their products, but they're making some decisions, in my opinion, that's going to make it really, really hard to come back from. And that's the one thing that concerns me with 2025 and beyond is Hobie. It's been very public. The downtrend of Hobie has been very, very public. Everyone's kind of seen it. Some people may over exaggerate it, but it is on that downward trajectory. And you're seeing companies underneath them kind of innovating, trying new things, listening to their customer base and their retailers, and coming out with some really, really good products that people are excited about, that people are buying. And let's be honest, when you're buying a brand, you tend to be loyal with that brand if you have a good experience. So those of you that bought the Bonafide SS series in the past, or even the RS 117 and enjoyed it, you're more likely to buy that RVR or the PWR or now the XTR. So, and it's the same thing with all of them. So Hobie can't expect all of these brand loyalists to all of a sudden just want to try a $5,000 Hobie that they've heard a lot of bad things about. So that's something to keep an eye on, in my opinion. And also, let's talk about the big one: Motor Guide ceasing operations, discontinuing the XI3, which we knew, but I was under the impression that a few months ago that okay, they're going to be redesigning a motor and then they're going to bring it out in the second quarter of next year, which I was still kind of scoffed at a little bit because the second quarter of next year, you're getting around ICAST territory, and that was kind of what I predicted there. But ICAST is in July. You're past the middle point of serious fishing season, and your tournament series are starting to wind down. And honestly, July is not when people start fishing. That's usually when they start, like, doing some other things. Maybe taking the pontoon out, for a spin, or, it. I feel like the timing of this is basically scrapping 2025 and then looking forward to 2026. And I don't think that's a good move. But they Motor Guide scrapping that or ceasing to exist, and then that company is going to be focused a little bit more on the Garmin series. It can be a good thing moving forward, but there's a lot of unanswered questions. Will the new motors that they produce, will they work with the same mounting system that the XI3? This is something that could be really simple for them to do, and also a very good thing. Nobody wants to go out and buy another $150 worth of hardware or more just to mount a motor to your kayak, especially if you've already got hardware. You've been running that XI3 and you, again, brand loyal, you want to buy that new product. So I'd like to see something like that. But honestly, thinking about the Wilderness System Tactical Pro, where do they go with that kayak? That kayak, you can put a stern mount motor. That kayak was built for a bow mount motor situation. So that whole scenario is definitely going to hurt the production of that kayak. I feel if it doesn't hurt Wilderness, it's definitely going to hurt them in the fact that retailers are probably not going to want to go out and buy a bunch of those kayaks knowing that they're not going to have a motor to put it on it. And that brings me to the motor situation. I'm excited to see what comes out, but honestly, bow mount motors with that GPS spot lock is what got me into using a motor in the first place. And again, I've got hardware to mount these motors up to kayaks, but that stuff that may be junk depending on what setup you're getting with this new motor. Is this new motor going to be a 12 volt still, or are they going to move it to a 24 or a 36? We don't know yet. So excited to hear more information about that, and then hopefully get some hands-on. There are some options out there, but they're very limited. You can go with the power pole setup, albeit around $5,000. A lot of people are not ready to jump into that. And and also, Minn Kota could very well come out with something, to fill that space. Because right now it's very, very underrepresented, and you can make the argument that having all of your eggs in one basket is what gets you into a situation like this. New Canoe is scrambling around trying to find a bow mount alternative to put on their kayaks, because these companies are they're relying on selling kayaks in 2025 and not waiting until the second half of 25 or 2026 to start doing real business. So it's the industry has gone from looking very, very strong to maybe taking a couple of steps back in hopes that they're going to take even more steps forward. That's the one thing that concerns me with it. Now, obviously, I'm talking about manufacturers, but what about your retailers? Your retailers are having less options now. Your retailers are making that money on, that one-stop shop, buying your kayak, buying your motor, buying your installation. And honestly, with all of these exciting kayaks coming out with the bow and the stern mount capability, to have 50% of those options pretty much taken away right off the bat, I think could very well hurt a lot of them, some more than others, obviously. And then obviously Hobie redesigning their Pro Angler for motor mounts could all be for naught. It's kind of a crazy time. Obviously, we just had the election, so those of you that are excited about what's happening or not excited at all about what just happened, it's tough to say where the economy goes from here. But I think the outdoor industry as a whole, and specifically kayak fishing, is definitely still on that upward trajectory. We just got to, all of these companies have got to figure it out to do this stuff in advance, instead of having these big gaps where no product is filling that in. And that's kind of where it looks like we're at, unless somebody's coming in on the radar and going to pop up some big surprise here for the holiday season, which I hope so, but you never know with things. But anyways, guys, what are you most excited to see for this coming year? What are you doing to your kayak this winter, or what I call rigging season? What are you doing to your kayak? What are you going to be adding on to? What are you going to be taking off of your kayak? Definitely interested to see what you guys have to say. Let me know down in the comments below. As always, we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for coming by, guys.